Well, hey there everyone, my name's Katie and welcome to L3 Church, and thanks for spending part of your weekend here with us. We've got a lot going on around our church, so we wanted to take a few minutes to tell you what's coming up for you and your family. So check this out.
Next Sunday begins our 7 days of prayer. We'll be hosting meetings where you can come to worship, pray, and connect. We believe that God moves when we come together to pray. So we look forward to having you join us as we partner with God to bring about His will for L3 Church and all of our lives for 2018. See you there.
It's that time again. It is time to get involved in a small group.
Yep, join a Sunday school class today.
No, I didn't say Sunday school class. I said small group.
Same thing.
No, they're really not.
Really?
Yeah, really. They
Sure.
they really do totally thing. A small group is a D group, is a cell group, is a community group, but this is a chance for you to get involved. Whatever you call it, get involved in a small group.
Get involved in a small group Sunday school.
Not what I said, two totally different things. When you say yes to a small group, your life will be changed because you are doing life with other people.
That does sound better than Sunday school when I was a kid.
Times have changed, my friend.
Oh, you know what? I remember in Sunday school we would always start with donuts. Do the small groups have donuts?
Still have donuts.
Yes!
They're just gluten-free now.
Oh.
If you want any information on any of the events mentioned or anything happening here at L3 Church, you can find information in person at our Connection Center as soon as the service is over. Or you can check your smartphone or computer by simply going to our website, l3church.com, or our Facebook page. These are the best places to find any info you're looking for.
Well, thanks so much for being here with us today. We believe that you're here for a reason, and God has something He wants to say specifically to you wherever you're at. And our hope is that you leave encouraged and closer to Him than ever before. Please let us know if we can help you in any way, and have a great weekend.
Grab your Bibles if you would, and also you will find in your bulletin an outline. If you'll grab that, that will help you as well. I like to teach. I would say I'm probably a pastor teacher, so I like to think about things in a linear way and an outline. So it will also help. It will help with just the efficiency of our time together. And so here's what I want to talk to you about. If you turn to Psalms 90, I want to talk to you about, we're going to be doing a series for January and February, and the series is going to be on living on purpose. Say it with me if you would, please. Living on purpose. For me, every year I take the holidays and I kind of have a little bit of a downtime, and I think about my next year. I think about what's happened in 2017. What have I experienced in 2017? How have I lived purposefully in 2017? Have I been productive in 2017? How has 2017 gone? And then I also think about the areas of 2018 and begin to look ahead. Now, some people set goals, which is fine. I set some goals, but mine is more the idea of trying to live by focus and live by emphasis. So I say in my life, if that's my North Star, if that's the way I want to continue to move in my life and live out a purpose, then I say, how do I get there? And I usually talk about then in my own life, there are certain areas of focus that I want to focus myself or give emphasis in 2018. Let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer them. I can ask you, raise your hand. But how would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 was your 2017? 10 being high was good. 1 being low, it was not that good. On a scale of 1 to 10, think in your head, how was your 2017? High, low, in the middle, okay, some areas high, some areas low. But how would you view 2017? For me, I would have to say to you, my 2017, I was somewhere around 7, 8. It was a very, very good year for me. I was able to be established in some of the things that I'm doing that you're aware of. I'm doing some coaching and training and speaking and kind of do some of these things. And so for me, it was my first full year of doing that after pastoring for 33 years and kind of doing some of this itinerary. And so for me, it was a very, very, I would say it was an excellent year. But one of the things we have to do, and what I think one of my theories is, one of my propositions to you would be, is that for believers, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, for believers, we should be the most fruitful people on the planet. Matter of fact, John 15, he says, if we remain abide in him, that we will bear fruit. And I would give a thought to that. What does that fruit mean? I think the fruit means lots of different things there. But I would submit to you that one of the things that means, that the fruit is the totality of my life. That as Ken Roberts, of who I am, of what God has given me, of my own skills and talents and opportunities and time on the earth and etc., that one of the things as I'm connected to him and continue to move ahead with Jesus Christ is that I am to be fruitful with my life. Not just only in a spiritual way. We oftentimes we kind of just make it a spiritual thing. Well, I use my gifts and I'm kind of fruitful in the church and I'm fruitful in the fruit of the Spirit, and all those things are true, but I'm not just a spiritual being only. That's the center of who we are. But I'm a holistic person, so when I think about my fruitfulness, I think of Ken Roberts. I think of one day that I will stand before the Lord, the Bible teaches that, and that I will have to give an account. There will be a report card. And the report card is not as much as I'm going to be punished for what I didn't do. I think the tone of the Bible and the text about a theology of reward is that I'm going to be rewarded for what I did do. I'll say that again. The tone is not that I'm going to be punished for what I didn't do. The tone of those texts is I'm going to be rewarded for what I did do. Do you know that there are 5 crowns that says they'll be given out in heaven? I want a few of those crowns. I want to go before the Lord and say, God, as much as I could in my life while I was on the earth, however many years that was, while I was here, that I did something with my life, I lived out a purpose. And as I lived out a purpose, now as I come to you and I stand before you the throne and I give a report card, I'm saying that I've done something with my life, and what I've done with my life is now a gift that I'm giving back to you. Wow, that was good. What will you give to God when you get to heaven? Sobering question, motivating question. We don't get to heaven by what we do. We're very clear on that. It's all by grace. We get in by what Jesus Christ has done. But because of what Jesus Christ has done, listen to me, you and I have been given a gift. And it's the gift of eternal life, and it's the gift of life that we get to walk and operate on this planet for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 47 years, 87 years, how many years God gives us. So he gives us a gift, and we have to ask the question, what are we doing with the gift that God has given us? Will we do something with our life that's a gift that we can give back to God? I must say to you, and I say this with a broken heart, but I say this with some passion, it is sad that in the church world, who I think we should be the most intentional, focused, proactive, purposeful, productive people on the planet. Why? Because we have the life of the kingdom. We have the gospel of the good news. We understand, we believe that there's going to be eternal consequences in people's lives. We believe that there's going to be eternal consequences of what we do and what we don't do with our life. Therefore, we should be not driven, not guilted, not motivated out of fear or the wrong way, but there should be a purposefulness because of what God has done for me. I want to use my life so I have something that I give back to God. And as we move into 2018, one of the things we can do in this series hopefully will motivate us to do this. Today's motivation, in weeks to come, will be more the practical of how we do it. But we have to ask ourselves the question, are we living our life on purpose? Here's what I find. I find because of the way that life is, and it's just the way life is, that for many of us, we're like, whack-a-mole. You ever seen whack-a-mole a long time ago, the gophers that came up in the little gopher holes, and you had a rubber mallet, and life just kind of ends up, okay, that happened, and that happened. And we go through life that way, reacting to life that way. Then we wake up one day and we said, what happened with our life? We were whacking gophers all the time, reacting to life, instead of having a proaction of life to say, that's the direction I need to go in. Now listen, life may knock me a little bit, but when I get up, I know that's the way I'm supposed to go in. And I'm not always reacting to life, but I'm living a life on purpose. Are you, as a believer, living your life on purpose? It's an interesting thing to think about as we enter 2018. And this series, hopefully, is going to help us to do that. Go to Psalms 90. And the psalmist, actually Moses, wrote this psalm, we believe. But he brings us to think about this whole thing about living on purpose. And in this chapter, I'll get to in just a moment, in this chapter is one of my life verses. I have 4 or 5, I'd say, life verses, but one of them is in this chapter that we're going to get to. So if you'll look at verse 1, and I want to just lead us through this, and we'll get to the crescendo verse, I think, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. But this is a motivational, inspirational, hopefully, message for us to think about, am I living my life on purpose? And as I enter into 2018, are there new adjustments I need to make? Is there new proactive motivation that I need to grab hold to so that at the end of my life, I have something to present to God? He's not looking for perfection, but I believe he is looking for us to stumble in the right direction with what he has given us so that we have a contribution to make while our feet touch the planet as we're walking across the planet until we kill over one day. Here's what Moses says. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting you are God. Now those 2 verses talk about God, his infiniteness. Those are the ideas that God is eternal. He has always been and he will always be. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. From generation to generation, you are God. So if you thought about it, it's a perspective that has no end. God is endless. When I think about those 2 verses, what it does with me, it makes me take a deep breath and pause and rest in the season of life that I am in, and the season of life that my marriage is in, and the season of life that our nation is in, and the season of life that our world is in, and the season of life that L3 is in. It makes me rest because what I realize is that God has always been and he will always be. He can handle and deal with whatever season I'm in today. Justin and I, one of the pastors here this week, we went to see the movie Winston Churchill, The Darkest Hour. It was a great movie, but I was thinking about that this morning. It's one of the most dramatic times in our world history when Europe was about to collapse. We somehow made it through that, and there's been other seasons before that and after that, and there will be other times. But when you understand that God is infinite, he has always been, it makes you to say, no matter what I'm going through, God is the one who's on the throne. He's not going to fall off the throne. He's not going to end one day. So he is from generation to generation. He is God. And when I think about that, I take a deep breath and think, yes, he is. I will rest in you. But, say but. In verse 3, now he's going to flip it on us. Okay? Look what Moses does in verse 3. He says, you turn men back to dust, saying, return to dust, O sons of men. What he does is, on this canvas of God being infinite, he then reminds us that you and I, we are finite. So you got an endless canvas, but in our own life, we're only there for a small season. We are all going to return to dust. Look at the next verse. He says this, verse 4. Now in verse 4, he goes back to further explain verses 1 and 2 about God being infinite. For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. You sweep men away in the sleep of death. So what he's doing there, he's saying that because God is outside of time, there is no time with him, so 1,000 years seems like nothing to him. To us it does. Today is January 7th, 2018. It's about 12 o'clock, the day. So we track everything by time, but for God, because he's eternal, it's no issue with him. I'm 61 years of age, so I'll be 62 next, then I'll be 63. So we think about everything in the area of time, but he says that's not so with God because God is infinite, but you and I, we're finite. We will pass away. We will return to dust. So he says, think about it in the light of the eternal God. Think about how short our life is. That's what he says to us. Look at verse 5b, or we'll go on 5. You sweep men away in the sleep of death. They are like, now he's going to show us, he's going to explain to us, he's going to give us metaphors, he's going to give us poetic language for us to feel what that is what he means by that, how finite that is. He says this, they're like the new grass of the morning, though in the morning it springs up new, by evening is dry and withered. So he gives us a picture from nature to say, that's how fast your life is. That's how fast my life is. It springs up, then it withers, and it withers over time. James said it this way, said our life is but a vapor. It goes quickly. It's formed and then it goes quickly. You ever seen a kid on the back porch doing soap bubbles, blowing soap bubbles? What happens? Blows the soap bubbles, it goes up there and drifts for about 10 seconds or so, and then it pops and it's gone. That's the idea that he's trying to say to us. God's infinite, we can rest in that, But he's trying to say to us, flip it on us, but you and I, we are finite. There's something about it that reminds us that we will one day return to dust, and our time is short. It's like the grass. It's like the vapor. It's like the soap bubble. It will pass quickly in our own life. Then look at verse 7, I'm sorry. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days, here it is, pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Look at verse 10. The length of our days, most of us know this, the length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have the strength, yet their span is but trouble, for they quickly pass and we fly away. In this area, he's talking about the fleetingness of life, how fast it goes. Now listen, my parents used to always tell me that as a little kid. But when you're a little kid, you never believe that. But the older that I get, the more that I realize just how time fast goes. I can't believe that I'm 61. I know I don't look it, but I can't believe I'm 61. You were supposed to laugh there. I can't believe I'm 61, but I'm 61. I can't believe that my dad is 87, but he's 87. I can't believe I have a daughter that's 36, but she's 36. I can't believe I have a son that's 34, but he's 34. I can't believe I have a grandson. I'm a grandparent now who's 21 years of age. And it's just gone so fast until that's what he said. He said, if by chance you get 70 or 80 years, take advantage of it because it goes by really, really, really fast. Think of it this way. Where the Cleveland Indians play, in their field, they say that their scoreboard is one of the largest in the nation. It was built as one of the largest scoreboards in the nation. And if you took that billboard, however big it is, it's a scoreboard, and you took it all white, huge, you took it all white. And if you took your life and you put your life as one little pixel, let's just say in the side corner or up in the left corner, it doesn't make any difference, and it was on the board for let's give it 5 seconds. 5 seconds, and it flashes, that's what our life is like. Do this for me if you would. On the count of 3, if you would, on the count of 3, only one time. On the count of 3, snap your fingers. 1, 2, 3. That's our life. And that's what he's trying to say to us. Okay, if you'll throw the next one up. You may want to write this down. This is very sobering, but this next, and it's a life math equation. If you go to the life math equation here, and I did this about 6 months ago. So here's a way you can do this. You can get this formula down if you want to write it on the back of your bulletin. Here's a way to do this. The life math exercise is this. I did it 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, I was 60 and a half years of age. So that's why that's me right there. And I took that and I times it by 365. That's how many days in a year. And I got the number 22,082. That's how many, listen, that's how many days I had already lived. That's the life math equation, all right? That's how many days I already lived. Now, when you see the 30,000, and what that is, that's the average life expectancy. In the United States today, a man, his life expectancy is about 76 to almost 77 years of age now. A woman's life expectancy in the United States is about 81. So what they've done with this number, they've kind of averaged them. This would be about 80 years if I figured it right. So they took 80 years, average lifespan, and they times it by 365, and they get 3,000. So here's what I did. I took the days that I had lived, 22,082, and I subtracted from 30,000, and guess what? According to this, if I live to be 80 or 81, maybe I'll live longer, maybe I won't live as long, who knows? But if I just take what the Bible says, I'll give you 70 or 80 years if you have the strength. I have maybe 7,918 days. Matter of fact, that was 6 months ago, so there's now 185 days of those gone. What was that? Get busy. That's the point. Get busy. Tell your neighbor, get busy. Because you're heading there. That's the idea. So I'll come back to the point, though. But the point is, what are we doing with our life? That's what he's trying to tell us. God's infinite. We are finite. Our days pass 70 or 80 years. Let me have a couple of volunteers. Max, if you'll help me again. Molly, you mind helping me again since you've already done it once? And Wade, would you help me again? Young Wade here, good-looking Wade here. Would you come up and just let me give you a visual of this, okay? So I've given you the idea of the scoreboard in the Cleveland Stadium, and we're just one pixel that's up for 5 seconds. But let me give you another visual to think about what he's saying with us. Well, you can stand behind him if you would, and if you'll stand over here with me, all right? And if you'll take this, and what he's going to do, this is a tape measure, okay? And what he's doing, he's stretched it out to 80 80 inches, all right? 1 inch per year, average 80. Okay, you got it? All right? So Molly, if you'll come up here now and you'll point 1 year per inch wherever you're at, okay? You're 19, you're only 19? Wow. So, okay. The question to Molly is, Holly, thank you very much. The question to Holly is, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Are you going to, that's how much you've got. Are you going to live your life on purpose? Or will you be hitting gopher rats, and wake up one day? That's how midlife crisis happens, matter of fact. We're reacting and then we realize, man, I'm 50 years of age and what have I done with my life? Because we haven't lived out a purpose. That's good. So you got to ask yourself, am I going to live out a purpose? So that's a visual for you wherever you're at. If you're 33, you're about here. If you're 40, you're about here. That's 48 right there, so it gives you an idea. So it gives you a visual. You should do this when you go home. Get a tape measure out, get a few people around, and go and say 80 and see where you're at. Okay, Wade, if you would, Molly, if you'll step behind me. Now, Wade, I know you're a young guy, but no cheating, okay? No cheating. However old you are, find your number. You're about 70. You're about 72. Way down there. You're way down there. You're about 72. No, whatever you are. Now, if you'll put your finger on it, whatever your number is, let's say how old he is. Oh my goodness, 70. I was prophetic. He's 72. You look good for 72. You really look good for 72. Okay. But you see the point. The point is, by faith, you can stretch it out. All right? Now, he may have another 10 years. He may have another 20 years. You know what I mean? But by visualizing this, it gives you an idea. Thanks, guys. It gives you an idea. So it's a motivation. That's what he's saying. He's saying life moves fast. What are you doing with it? Now, if you would go to verse 12. I'm talking fast because of time, but here's what he says. So he says, yet their span is but trouble, sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. Verse 11, who knows the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due you. To me, this is where we was going. This is one of my life verse. And I believe, as I read the passage, I believe this is the crescendo verse of the chapter. I believe that Moses is saying to us, because of these things, God's infinite, we're finite. Time goes by fast. It's fleeting. We have 70 or 80 years. That he says this, therefore, teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. The New Message translation translates it this way. Oh, help, Lord, that I may live wisely and well. Oh, help me, Lord, that I may live wisely and well. So the question is, it's not by condemnation, but it's by motivation, by inspiration. It's by provocation by the Word of God to ask ourselves the question, are you living life on purpose? Are you doing something with your life by how God has designed you, by what He's given you, by what He's created you, by the talents, by the experiences, where that you are moving toward your North Star so that you are doing something with your life that you will have a gift to give back to God. Let me give you now the final, and let me give you 3 reasons why living like we're leaving is so important. Living life like we're leaving is so important. Let me give you 3 in your bulletin. If you want to do them, they'll be on the slides. Number 1, why it's important to live like we're leaving is because one day we will. While I've been here, many of you know my late wife was killed in a car accident. In March, it'll be 14 years. And so my former father-in-law, her name was Debbie, her dad, his name was Bert. While I had been here on last night about 6 o'clock, I got a text from one of my former sister-in-laws that my former father-in-law had passed, age of 91. Lived a long life. He had had dementia in the last several years of his life. He passed. It was not, unexpected. 91 years of age. About 10 years ago, while I was still pastoring in Minnesota, I was having an impromptu meeting with our youth pastor and our children's ministry pastor. And we were standing in our youth pastor's office, and we were just having a conversation about something that was coming up and how to plan for it. It was a stand-up meeting, and we'd been 15, 20 minutes, and then we kind of got into talking about sports, and we kind of moved on to other things, and we were just having a conversation. And our children's pastor said to us, I've been trying to call home my wife. Her name was Melanie. I've been trying to call Melanie, and she's not picking up. I'm going to go home and just check on her. His drive was about 15 minutes to his home, and he drove, and I was still standing in the office with my youth pastor, and we were talking about, the Green Bay Packers or Vikings, or, we were just talking about sports or whatever, and I get a call on my cell phone. I take my cell phone out, and it's Steve, my children's pastor, and Steve is hysterical. And Steve is crying on the phone. He's gasping for air on the phone. He's trying to get it out to me. And he said, Pastor Ken, and he was crying. He said, I got home, and I couldn't find my wife, and I finally went upstairs, and I found my wife in the bathtub, and she had drowned. We were 15 minutes away. Pastor and I, his name was James. We rushed there. We were the first ones to get there. Got out of the bathtub. He'd already got out of the bathtub. She was laying on the floor by the toilet, and I began to do CPR on her right away. And the emergency team got there within 5 minutes. I moved out of the way. One of the emergency guys got there, and he started working on her CPR, and I moved over by the door frame, and he, in no time, within 5 minutes, looked up at me and gave me the eye, and he knew that she was gone. The story is she was in the bathtub and had a grand mal seizure. Hit her head, somehow went under the water, and she drowned. Age 37. Little boy, 4 years of age. I did the memorial, did the funeral, and here's what I said at the funeral. I said, none of us know how we're going to die. None of us know when we're going to die. But all of us know we're going to die. Now, for many people, death is something that's fearful. But for believers, it shouldn't be fearful. Matter of fact, that's my next point. Why should we live like we're leaving number 2? Is because death is the great motivator. Death is the great motivator. Death doesn't have to be morbid. Death doesn't need to be morbid, especially for a believer. But it should be a motivator. I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to leave people behind. I appreciate life. But because of what I have in Jesus Christ, I'm not afraid to die. So whether God gives me another year, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, to me it doesn't make that much difference. I'm not afraid to die. But what death does to me, because I know it's coming, it's a motivator for me. Many people push death off. We don't want to talk about that. It's not really a happy thought. We're really in a secularized culture. Let's just make whatever our delight is. But for a believer, we should actually be motivated. The saints who went before us, they were motivated by the frailty of life and the fleetingness of life. So I ask you the question, you're going to die one day. I'm going to die one day. You're 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 going to die one day. And the question is it motivating you to live a life that's on purpose? Do you have the same cry that Moses had in verse 12? Lord, teach me to number my days aright, so I can present to you a heart of wisdom. Do not waste your life. Can I appeal to you? Do not waste your life. Whatever season, whatever age you're in, live your life on purpose. Let me give you the third and the last point. You can write it in your outline if you would. Why do we want to live like we're leaving? Because one day we will give an account. The Bible teaches, and I kind of started with this, so I won't spend much time here as we end, but the Bible teaches that there is a theology of rewards. We don't get into heaven by what we do. We're not provoked by works. But the Bible does teach that one day there will be a report card. Well, Ken Roberts will have to come to the throne and say, okay, what did you do with the life I gave you? What did you do with the years on the planet that I gave you? What did you do with the intellect I gave you? What did you do with the gifts that I gave you? And I'll have to give an account to God. Say, God, to the best of my ability, I tried to live a life with purpose. I tried every day, every year, to number my days aright. I tried to move toward the North Star of my own design and call my own life, so that I could do something in gratitude for what you've given me. About 30 years ago, my dad, who lives in Tennessee, still alive, flew up to Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I was living at the time. And my dad flew up, and we got in the car, and we drove 4 hours west on the turnpike to see my uncle, his brother. And it was his brother, Daryl. I call him Uncle Daryl, of course. We drove 4 hours there. And Uncle Daryl was 62 years of age, and he was dying from cancer. And we got there to see him, and my daughter, Nicole at the time, she was 7 years of age, 6, 7 years of age, who always loved to dance. She always dressed up and danced in worship, and she had a tambourine, and she always loved to dance. And she was still a little girl, and she went with us, and we went to see Uncle Daryl. And when we got to see Uncle Daryl, Uncle Daryl was dying, and we're all musicians. So my dad and I pulled out the guitar, and we began to sing worship songs. And my little daughter began to dance as we were doing that. And then at the very end, we were getting ready to get in the car and head back home 4 hours. We prayed for Uncle Daryl. Uncle Daryl, about a year earlier, had given his life to Jesus Christ, but up to that point, he'd lived a very, very difficult life. All my cousins had had a lot of difficulty, all of his kids, etc. And we were praying for Uncle Daryl, and when we ended up praying for Uncle Daryl, we had our hands on Uncle Daryl, and I still remember it was over 30 years ago, and Uncle Daryl said to us, he looked at my dad, they called him Eugene, and he looked at me in the eyes. I would have been again in my early to mid-30s at the time. He looked at me, and with tears, no kidding, streaming down his eyes, he said, Eugene, I have so many regrets about life, I wish I could live it over again. God doesn't motivate us by condemnation. He doesn't motivate us by the wrong fear. But he will provoke us, and he will inspire us. And he will push us by his word to do something with our life. Let me ask you a question. Are you simply hitting gopher heads with a rubber mallet? Are you living your life that's purposeful, that's intentional, and at the end, when you give an account, a report card before God, will you be able to give him a gift with what you've done with your life? Let's pray. Father, we thank you for a new year. And we thank you that you have been faithful to us. But Lord, as we reflect on 2018, whether we're 17, 19, 47, 71, 61, whatever age we're at, may we think about 2018 and think about, Lord, teach us to number our days aright so we can present to you a heart of wisdom. At the end of our life, no matter what life has thrown at us, we'll have done the best with what we've been given to give back to you with the best of what we have. I pray in the name of the Father and of the Son